Welcome back to the channel, and this is episode 2 of the Pit Droid. Enjoy. Okay, so the Pit Droid is fully disassembled in parts all over this room. I've decided to start with the feet and work my way up. So first of all, I've removed all the supports. I'm going to fill in any where supports have been, any gaps and layer lines, or big layer lines, and then we're going to sand over all the parts with probably a 120 grit. Try and get all the layer lines down, and then once that's done, we'll put the first coat of primer on. So I'm using Plasto. I find this is quite good to use. Let's open it up. Rubber gloves. Doesn't actually, I don't think it says, well, it's got warnings on there, but it's always better to, because I'm going to rub it in with my finger, better to have gloves, and safer than sorry. Oh, it's a bit. Right, now it's quite a good idea to use this in a ventilated room. It is a little bit pongy, and this doesn't seem to be a bit runny, this one. Let's get the excess oil out. Seems to be a bit of. That's it. Okay, now we're ready. I'm just going to try and fill some of this. That's better. This might have got a bit warm, this one, because it's a bit runny. As I say, I'd like to use Bondo, but getting it in the UK isn't that easy, I've discovered. Doesn't matter if you're a little bit messy on this bit, it's all being sanded off. There you go, just slap it on there, work it in. Now you notice, because of the angle it's printed, anything with an angle, the top layer doesn't come out particularly well. And of course you could re-angle it to try and get the top layers good. However, you'd need more supports at the bottom, so I think this may be the lesser of two evils. Who knows? Just work it in. As I say, doesn't matter if you're a little bit messy, it's all going to be filed and sanded off. It's coming out a bit thicker now. Got rid of that top bit. Oh, I just realised my arm's in the way of the camera. You'll see all the ridges there. Let's try and bury some of them. So not all. Notice that the feet are actually, in terms of top layer, are probably one of the worst. The others seem not too bad, so it'll just be seams and join lines on those. Right, that's that one. Now I'll speed things up because it's all much the same for the other foot. Right, whilst they're drying, I'm going to move on to the shins. They've already been joined. I printed these in 2 halves, primarily just to try and reduce the height, obviously, and how much support and things are necessary. Now, I've already done a small fill-in on these before I decided to make videos and things, so that hence this has already had a go, but it needs a little bit more in there. So I'm going to fill this seam line again. Just take a smidgen of filler, and that means I go diagonally like so, just to make sure that not only is the seam filled, but everything around that seam is going to be at the same level. Just rub it in across like so, and this stuff goes off fairly quick. It's already starting to go. I'll have to read the box. I don't know quite long how when it's sandable. I'll have to have a check. Okay, that's that filled. Doesn't look like there's any obvious filling I'm going to do. I'm not going to worry about too much about the quality of that because that's all going to be hidden by the joint. It's more these surfaces here. So get that seam line filled in, and that'd be the bottom part of the leg done. Okay, moving up to the upper leg. So we've got a seam line there, another join which we're going to fill in. But again, the Anycubic and the Chili +4 printed them so well that those lines they're just going to sand straight down. They're really, really good. They come out lovely. And of course, you can be as fussy or not fussy as you want, depending on what you want. It's your droid. You decide what the level of sanding you want. Because I'm going to put my base coat, I've decided I'm going to go with a chrome silver base coat, and then use a liquid masking fluid on where the weathering is going to be, and then I'm going to airbrush the colours over the top and then take that off. So as soon as you start using chromes and shiny paints, that's when you start seeing little nasties come up. So yeah, so I'm going to take it, as I say, I'm going to get all this filling done, and then I am going to put a 120 grit over everything, and then we'll take it from there. And then of course primer, and then might go over with a 400 grit, maybe around that, take the primer level down, see what results I get. I might have to go over again. We'll have to wait and see. All right, let's get this filled. Right, I'm going to move on to the main body. I've glued the hips in. That is actually a separate part, but I've already glued them in. Quite a few. It was sitting on the bed like so. So obviously all this here was supported, and as you can see, probably didn't use the right supports really. Could have done better. But however, because this is the main body, I want this to look and tidy up a little bit. Change of colour there. I ran out of the grey. I went over to the blue, and thankfully the Anycubic actually done the filament run out and swap over absolutely brilliantly. I mean, there's not any. There's a slight ridge there, but it's actually really changed over really well. So good job. Yeah. So sort of carry on filling this. Right, onto the hips. This was joined in two halves. So it printed one half like so, and this half obviously like that. The only top layer I've got to worry about is probably that one, and obviously the seam. So, and I've also just discovered this stuff dries within about 10 minutes and is sandable in about 10 minutes. I'll probably leave it a little longer than that, just to make sure it is fully hardened. But yeah, let's get cracking. I'm going to move on to the forearms. Not a lot to do on these. Just where these details, again, the top layer, because it's a curve, has got some steps, so I might put a little bit on there to find it out, but that's really it. All these need, and I think looking at the other parts of the arm, yeah, they're all, as I say, these guys done a fantastic job of printing them. So a little bit under there, but that's where I'm going to be adding a piece of decorative hose, so it looks like a hydraulic. So it's going to be covered up anyway. So I'll probably leave that. Yeah, let it all dry, and then ready for sanding. Okay, as I said, a lot of the other parts seem pretty good. Not really a lot to do on them, so I don't think I need to do any more filling. And I forgot to mention that obviously I started this project before I started making videos, so the neck I've already filled and done a layer of primer on, which is the black primer. So that's already done, and the head, again, I've already done some filling and done the first layer of primer on that. Again, you can see, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there are lines around here, so that needs sanding back again, and another run of filler primer, and I think that'll cover it. I think it'll be pretty good. So the layer lines are really good on these, and for the dome, I already filled the cap because it's a top layer and it's a curve, you get them steps. But I've already filled that with filler and sanded it back and put the first primer on. So it's a bit rough still, so obviously that needs the second stage of the sanding done to that. So that's really all the parts that are going to need filling. So yep, we're going to let that go off and move on to sanding. quite a long video this time. Didn't get everything I wanted in to the video. It's all a bit labour intensive. I know that this first bit is. On the next one, we will be covering and quickly going over the sanding and the first primer stage. I hope you're enjoying this series. And if you want to follow along with this one and many other projects that I've got coming up, please leave a like and subscribe and hit that bell. And I'll see you in the next one.